On the page, the north is up. Okay, so we're sitting on this yellow peg right here. We've recently purchased about 49 acres in anticipation of moving our public works building down here. So we expect our site that we have to work with, we're not going to use that whole 49 acres, but we expect somewhere in the neighborhood of between 5 to 10 acres. We're hoping that as a result of this process, we can get through our needs analysis and figure out exactly how much space we need, how much space we're going to need, and kind of get a footprint pinned down for that. So the site selection. So what you have shown on here, you have the sewer lines, those are the green dots. We have water and sewer in this road right here. The further west you go, the more remote we get. So we have some utilities right here against the road, but we're going to try and keep our buildings here close to the road because of that, in order to get drainage for sewer and things like that. Let's just back up a little bit. Some of the surrounding property here. So the need for this, relocating our public works building, we've recently sold land to Intermountain Health. We got a new hospital coming into town. They happened to buy the property that we currently occupy, so they've given us some timeline to get out. That's the need for the accelerated time schedule for that. So we're at the end of this, we're going to take an optional site visit up to the existing public works site. You can go check it out and see what we have existing.
Thank you.
Brian, can I interject here for
Yep,
just a second?
jump in.
So I know that there's been some confusion, some questions about the design and what we want to do here. The most important thing that we need to get right off the bat is a needs analysis of where we're at. My philosophy is that we want to build for not just what we have now, to replicate what we have now, but to build so that we can build for the future. Now that may be that we build just to replace for right now, but whatever we get, we want to be able to expand easily for future needs, and that's what the needs analysis really is for. We don't have to have a completed, constructed, out-the-door turnkey building by the end or by spring quarter 2025. It'd be nice, but we understand that things like transformers are 80 weeks out. So we don't expect that. But what we do have to have is a place to put some equipment and some things that move off, because we do have to be off the existing site by spring quarter 2025 contractually. So that's the initial need.
Sorry to interject, but end of the quarter or first of the quarter or March?
We can fudge a little bit on that. So that's why we didn't put an exact date on it. And this is all goals. What we have to do is we have to provide a clean site to Intermountain, and the spring quarter is definitely a goal date. But the fact remains that if we can show that we're making progress and that we're moving things off and that things are going to happen, they'll grant us an extension a little bit. But I don't want to guarantee that, and we don't want to lose the opportunity to have the hospital out there. So we've got to move as quick as we can. And we had some internal problems that, you know, I've only been city manager for 7 months, that kind of delayed us as we transitioned city managers and city council making some final decisions and actually acquiring this land. We weren't able to acquire this land until December. So we're just behind the 8 ball on this, trying to get things done. So while it's an accelerated timeline, there is some room for grace. So don't think that if you can't meet that deadline hard and fast, that you may not get the bid, because we can allow for some wiggle room, but we do want to express the need for urgency and getting things done. Back to Brian.
Yeah. So just a little bit of some background here. We have along with the hospital, they're one of the anchor tenants. We have a new master plan community coming in along Main Street and working down a little bit. A mixed use, townhomes, single family homes, commercial and near the front, industrial in the rear. So this piece that adjoins, this is an L-shaped piece. If you look at your map there, the south border of that will be future industrial, flex commercial, things like that, and also some residential. So the city council right now has also tentatively pegged a future recreational space on the remaining acreage, right? So we have city yard is going to take up to 10 acres. The rest of the space we have a future rec space planned. Probably some fields at first, and maybe eventually a building, a rec center long term. So across the street, we have right up here, just south of this house right here, we have approved a duplex subdivision. So they could go in and break ground at any time. We will be working with some residential on this neighborhood. This piece right here just went up for sale, so we're not entirely sure what that future use holds. But we expect more development in the area. So this is kind of remote on the outskirts, but we got lots of stuff in the works, and this is not going to be remote for very much longer. So let's talk utilities for just a minute. On your map, the green dots are the sewer manholes. So we have water and sewer in this road. The red dots are the fire hydrants. We have a fire hydrant. Look at that, Jeff. Right. So we got a 10-inch water line here in 400 West. We've got sewer available. We are restricted by elevation, so we're going to keep these buildings as close to the road as we can in order to catch sewer. And we can have some yard space and stuff in the back. But we got to have a plumbing here in the front of the road. We do have some ideas on kind of a preliminary layout and things like that, and we'll get into that a little bit as we get into that. So Sean's already covered needs analysis. So really, this first step, we're looking for someone to help guide us through the process. As you can tell, we're pretty preliminary right now. We need some project management assistance. We need some design assistance. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're looking for some help because this is a great big job, and we're a little bit over allocated in our bandwidth to take on a project this size. So we're looking for some help to help us plan it out, help us cross all the T's and dot all the I's for this project. So that needs analysis. Future, what does a potential layout look like? What does our future growth look like? What do we need long term? How do we plan for scalable? How do we add on in the future and things like that as we need it? How do we look at combining with the power department long term? There's not a deadline for the power department like there is on the public works, where we have to be off the land for the future hospital. But with the power department, they've kind of outgrown their space and they're looking for some space as well. So we're trying to figure out how do we accommodate that if possible, and just kind of have those conversations. So we want to go through some of those, just planning and thinking through some of the details a little bit, and make sure we're not missing something for our long-term plans here. Building type. So there's a local builder in town, CO Building. They do pre-engineered steel buildings. We're trying to negotiate with them to get a building in exchange for some land, probably, in order to help us with our budget. So it will be a pre-engineered steel building. We've had a meeting with Craig Goldberg, the owner there. He thinks that they can get us a building delivered. Tell me if I'm wrong, Sean. Probably 3-4 months to get it delivered and stood up. About 3 months after that, as far as the shell goes, right? So we think we can get a building here and delivered and stood up with a shell in place and still meet the timeline that we're looking at. What we don't have, he's not going to provide any kind of layout necessarily as far as office space, whatever the needs are internal. He'll give us a shell of a building, and then it's up to us to kind of finish the space that we need to for things like that. Is that fair, Jeff, Sean?
Yes. as far as order time and lead time on the steel building, we can order it as late as December and have it stood up. Obviously that doesn't help us on foundations or stuff like that, but as far as the steel, we can order it as late as December and have it stood up by the end of the first quarter under current lead times that are today. Obviously those can change as we get into a project and as the summer gets busier. So our goal is to have something that we can put the foundation in the fall and then stand up the building as we can later.
And if we can get into it, like if we put a foundation in July, that would be even better, right?
Yeah.
Give us more time to start the transition there.
Have you already identified kind of the rough footprint size of the building?
Do you want to talk about that, Jeff?
So, yeah, our first building with the offices needs to be approximately 120 by 100. Half of that needs to be allocated for our maintenance shop. So we would need something, a divider down the middle, make the shop 50 by 120. So then the other half would be the office space and a few more sectioned off storage areas. We're looking at a second building, be 100 by 100 for equipment storage, snow plows, etc. And then a commodity shed on the bottom half, approximately 120 by 20. But those are, pieces of the puzzle. So the most important thing right now is the first building. So.
And those dimensions can change if we find a layout that works, and maybe it's one building instead of three to figure that out, or one building with a lean-to or something. There's many different ways. So don't feel like as you're doing your bids and your floor planning and such, that's what the site needs analysis is really for, to tell us what can we do now and what can we get to in the future.
Is there any value in doing a two-step thing where you do a programming phase to kind of nail all that down and then figure out your
We're open to that.
design on the rest of it?
We're open to those conversations. Yeah, there's lots of ways to go about this. Really, the whole point of what we're doing right now is to select someone to help us get all the way through that process, right? So we don't have anything fixed necessarily. We're open for conversation and discussion to get the best thing done. I know that kind of makes it a little bit hard on what you submit for your RFP, right? But we're open if you have ideas in your RFP and approaches. We would consider that, putting that in your RFP, and we can evaluate that.
If I understand, you're looking for an estimate or cost proposal for the whole thing, and not just the first part, right?
We would ask for some assistance as part of this with the site design, and obviously we're looking at construction budget, things like that as well.
It's part of what we need here is we don't know what things cost today, right? So once we get the site needs analysis done, then we can put a firm construction budget. So again, the construction budget is not going to be the biggest factor for us as far as low bid or anything like that. What we want is to get the right building in the right space so that we can make it work. And then we've got to go back and figure out what we can pay for, and if we have to do a rate increase on utilities, or if we need to go to a GO bond or something like that to pay for it. So
Do you have funding for your building then?
Some,
Okay.
like I said, we've got we're working on a land swap to pay for the actual building itself. We've got some money stashed away from the sale of property. We've got some further property sales that will add some stuff to that. So we're still kind of cobbling together where the funds are, because we want to do this as best we can for our residents to not have to do things. But as far as a final budget number, do we have 20 million that we can spend on this today? No, we don't. That's why we're looking to see what we can do now and what future needs may be.
So we do have budget for obviously this first step, help us with design and site analysis and all the site needs that we have. That part's not in question. We do have some construction budget available, but we're still kind of early in this, as you can tell. We're just looking for some help to help us pin down help us think of things we haven't thought of yet, and make sure we're doing this the right way, and come up with that construction budget. So regardless of what else happens, I think we have enough to stand our building up with our pre-engineered building, right? We may be doing some other pieces of that as we get into that, and we'll have to do that analysis as we get final numbers, final design, final budget for that.
Will we need to include foundation design in our scope, or is that going to be provided by the pre-engineered building manufacturer?
So the pre-engineered, we are looking for some geotechnical work as part of this package, right? So geotechnical and phase 1 environmental. That has not been done yet. That needs to be done as part of this process. So.
But you know if CO will provide the actual structural design for the footings and foundation?
I believe they will.
Most of the time we'll provide the reactions, and then the structural engineer will come in and design the foundations.
That's fair.
So.
Yeah. I think the geotech will provide the bearing analysis, allowable bearing pressure, and the structural building will design to that. So.
For your due diligence, your phase 1 and your geotechnical, are you wanting to do that to the entire site or just the public work portion?
The 5 to 10 acres.
5 to 10 acres.
Yeah.
So the geotech would just be on this portion here. I think the phase 1 environmental, for sure on the public works, we may have to talk about if we need the phase 1 to cover the rest of the site or not.
Wait, but you purchased property already.
We own the property.
Will the phase 1 just be to more or less verify what's here versus sometimes that's done prior to purchasing, so you kind of know what's on the property?
Right. The circumstances did not allow us to do that. So it has not been done yet. It needs to be done. We'd like to at least get that documentation cleared as far as what we're dealing with. We don't anticipate any big surprises with that.
Do you have sage grouse out there? Sometimes that'll throw you for a loop because if they're nesting, they're protected.
That's something we'll have to figure out. Yeah.
With the EA, yeah.
There's no sage grouse in our valley.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as an EA, we're not looking for a full EA necessarily. We're just looking for a documentation of what's here existing on a phase 1 environmental.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Brian, what's your anticipation for street improvements, road improvements, just through the frontage of the property to the full city standard, or are you hoping to get by with less for now?
So great question. For sure, we need to improve our frontage. As you can tell, we don't have much of a road here to begin with. We're going to be adding some improvements. So this subdivision across the street, they're going to improve their frontage. They're going to be widening the road a little bit from what it is. We expect that, we got to pave our frontage, curb gutter sidewalk our frontage. Probably, most likely, some off-site asphalt to the nearest road to get into here. So that will be, our minimum is a 26-foot off-site improvements there. So
And that's most likely going south, right?
I think that was the initial plan. We'll just have to see, whether we want to, I don't know.
Either or, but not necessarily both.
Yeah.
Is that
we need at least one access into the
I think
site.
we've decided that it'd probably be easier for the utilities to come this way rather than, since we've got all the giant mature trees and the narrow road, it'd be easier to come through.
Do you anticipate needing any dedications from these folks on this side in order to get that road in?
That's actually a good question. What we would expect now is we would widen our property. We would not necessarily widen anything else. We'd try and keep it between the fences. So we would claim at the very least a prescriptive easement on the existing road. We don't anticipate going into fence lines or anything like that.
Brian, as far as right-of-ways go, like as far as a power utility and communication, I mean, if you look down this road, obviously we'll be into that other property. So that's my concern too. Where's that right-of-way actually going to be eventually?
And where do we put that power line? Instead of coming clear out here, then jogging in, do we keep it straight? You know, that's,
So would you say then right-of-way assessment would be an important part of the survey component then?
Yeah, we need to
I would
verify
feel
as
that,
part of
yeah.
our final plan. Yeah. So one of the other things that we would hope as a long-term, this site is currently not surveyed. We would hope to have survey pins in corners so we can assess for that as well.
And you would want that for the larger
Yeah.
piece as well, yeah.
So we've talked about timeline just a little bit. We were encouraged when we found out we could get that pre-engineered building fairly quickly. So as far as everything else goes, we would hope to be doing our analysis as quick as we can in the next couple months. Whatever we can do to, really the ultimate goal for us is to be off the other side so they can start doing what they need to on that side. Once we're here and off, then we still have some time to work to our final conclusion here, right? So we got to be able to get our equipment off. We need some storage for our equipment. We need some of that space. We don't necessarily have to have a full turnkey, everything's done campus, public works campus down here, right? So, but we do need to be off of that property as soon as we can. So that's one of the important goals here, right? We've talked about budget a little bit, existing site prep. You want to talk a little bit about these buildings, what's going to happen with these buildings?
The existing buildings,
Yeah.
they're all gonna be knocked down and either burned or hauled away.
So that'll be gone. What's our timeline for those to be gone?
As soon as possible.
So
So I
next
don't
month?
really have a timeline, it's just whenever I can spare people.
We're thinking next month or two, probably.
Yeah, easy.
So
well-
we would probably anticipate these buildings would be gone before the phase 1 environmental, I'm assuming.
Depending on how soon we can get that built.
Yeah. So we'll take care of removing the buildings, things like that. So this soil is pretty poor soil, lots of clay. Probably there's going to need to be some improvements as far as road base and pit run and things like that for whatever access we have. So we'll need to do some site prep as far as grubbing and bring in some better structural fill to get our equipment around. So let's talk RFP deadline. Some of this is new information. There's a lot to kind of get your head around. We've talked about extending the deadline from the original, the 26th, Friday, next Friday, this Friday. We had it
Yeah,
this Friday,
if you
right?
could do that, that'd be great for the teams, I think.
So we're in the balancing act of how much time do we give you to wrap your head around it versus how much time do we lose to get going on it, right? So our intent is to get going as soon as we can. Obviously, you guys need to have enough time to wrap your head around it and figure it out. So we were thinking initially a 1-week extension, but maybe I'll throw that open to the group. Is that completely unreasonable, or is that?
I think a week is good.
Yeah, I was hoping for
Helps me.
the next Wednesday.
Okay, so if we extend it 1 week to the following Friday, does that work for everybody? It
Is
gives a
that
little
like
more,
the 5th or
Third, I think.
3rd? Okay.
yeah, whatever a week from Friday is. So
So Friday the 26th would take us to Friday the 3rd if we give a 1-week deadline extension.
we do know that, especially like today, this is new information for almost everybody. So like we are sensitive to at least giving you enough time to kind of wrap your head around it a little bit. So
Thank you. I think having that additional week will give you some better proposal submissions overall too. Thank you for that.
What other questions do you have? We've kind of gone through some of them already.
For the interior of the building, I assume that you're looking for, or the buildings, the full architectural design, mechanical, electrical, architectural code.
That is the final goal. Yes.
So the only space in that in the first office or the first building that needs to be finished is office space, and everything else in the steel building, we just have the insulation.
Any idea how much or how big that area will be? How many people you're trying to fit in there, right?
Well, we have
Just trying to get an idea.
nine or 10 right now. But
Okay.
we get up to 13 to 15 in the summertime with part-time help.
So that's on existing
It's on
employees, right? So we are hoping to plan for some long-term expansion and growth there.
No,
Do you
15.
plan to do any of the work yourselves, or is it all going to be contracted out?
You know, maybe a couple of offices.
So we'll do what we can, but we don't expect that to be as much as we're hoping, right? Like we are fairly limited on our crews and our bandwidth for that. So we expect a lot of this to be hired out.
So
The,
Brian, I'll just bring something up with the power side. I mean, we're willing to dig the power to the facility, place the transformer, run the conduit to the building, but then after that, I feel like that's, you know, an
inside the
electrical
building, it would be
electrical
hired out.
contractor, whatever that be, you know, so, yeah,
So not just a shell.
right.
You saying utilities stubbed in the building?
Yeah, correct.
So here,
For your office, are you gonna want some amenities like a break room? I know the restrooms, you need showers,
Definitely break room, possibly, you know, like a break room including a little small kitchenette or something.
okay,
We'll have to look at shower. Be nice to have a little space to do laundry for everybody's
Okay.
sewer muddy clothes, so they don't have to take them home. But that's an option. And
there's
then
also some considerations, and this would come out through the needs analysis, but you know, things like a training room, possibly, you know, some future cubicle space for additional employees or a secretary, things like that long term.
If we go out to our existing site, we have one office and then a table with counters and like 3 or 4 computers just shoved around counters. So nobody really has their own desk space to work out of. And not, you know, I don't know what we really need for public works desk space, right? We think of them out in the field rather than in an office, but we definitely would need something like that. And future admin space, right? Eventually they're going to need their own administrative assistant type people, and having a place for them to sit and greet and manage things. So again, it's all about the future planning for the building.
And some of that doesn't necessarily have to be built out now because we don't necessarily need it now, but we need to plan for that in the future. It's going to happen in the future. So we just like to put enough thought into it that we can easily add something if we need it down the road. So.
Maybe just throw out again food for thought. Would it make sense to structure your cost proposal requirement to focus on the initial programming, needs assessment, environmental survey, the upfront stuff, and then have the design for the facilities handled after that? There's a lot of different options. It'd be hard to really put a design budget together until you know
what you're doing.
That programming phase would flesh that out, lay out your site, what you're going to have in your buildings. It's hard. I mean, we can kind of throw out concepts, but you're going to have lots of different concepts with that. But just a thought, if you had, you can look at experience and everything else for the whole project, but as you're asking for prices, you might just focus on the upfront programming phase.
So I think what probably my take is, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, that's something that we'll go back today and have a conversation on, and if we go that route, we'll add an addendum to that. So. Is that fair, Sean, Jeff?
That's fair. I mean, we're not opposed to breaking it into 2 different projects, right? If that's what we need to do. The simple fact was we were looking to see if we could get one firm that could do the majority of it, or put a conglomeration together that could do the majority of it, so that we didn't have to go back out and be delayed on stuff on the back end. But
be up to your process. But
yeah,
if it's seem like you could select a firm based on the upfront information, the qualifications, the pricing for the upfront stuff.
Yep.
Go through programming, then without going out again, you roll into
Yep.
the design.
Yep.
Without, but just a thought.
Okay. What other questions do we have?
Was there a sign-in sheet you passed around, or?
Yeah, it's right here.
It's on the bed of the truck there.
Well, make sure you sign it. It's right here. Make sure you sign it. Okay.
All right, do you want to go for the walk, or where are we going?
Yeah, so we were just anticipating you can spend a few minutes here and walk around. You know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. We'll head up to the other site and just let you see what the existing public facilities look like. So, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of time to walk around. You're welcome to come back at any time and walk around, spend as much time as you need here. We're not necessarily trying to hustle you through it, but we just want to be respectful of everybody's time. So if you want to come back, you're welcome to spend as much time. And we'll probably head up to the other site and give us like 10 or 15 minutes maybe.